All right, welcome back to another episode of Keys of Currency. Today, I got some heavy hitters. I got guys that are straight out of the ATL. They're going to give you guys some very good game today. We're going to get to know them, get to know their strategies, and get a lot of value. So without further ado, please help me welcome the guys, the owners of Top Brokerage, Mr. Eddie Charger.
What up, what up, what up? What's going on?
Mr. Ivan Iverson.
Yo.
And Mr. Nico.
Yo, what's up, you guys?
So, fellas, first thing I like to do, get this right out the way, origin story a little bit. Start with you, Eddie. If you can give a little bit of background about yourself, you know, how you got into real estate, and just let the people know who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So, my name is Eddie Charger, hailing out of Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia.
Philly. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. And like everybody else, I moved down to Atlanta because I fell in love with a girl with a big butt and a smile.
That's
really how it went down.
She tricked him.
That song came out. It was like, don't trust him. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to trust this one.
This will work.
I think this will work.
It worked out well.
It worked out. Listen, it's good.
We've been rocking ever since. But you know how I got started in the real estate is out of everyone in my family, I was always the one that was always like on business. Like I always had to play, right? Like the grind and the hustle I inherited from both my parents. Both my parents always worked, but they always had a hustle. So I used to watch my parents eat in order to make things happen. And so innately, like I grabbed onto that, and that became like at my core. So I was like 13 when I had my first business. 13. I was 13. So I was 8 years old. I was 8 years old when I started saving money. And at one point in time, I remember I had more money saved than my parents had. Like it was like an off week for them. And that was like a big deal. But to me, I thought it was just like, you know, this way. And it was, my dad was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You're going to be a banker. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a banker. And then growing up in the hood, you know, the people that I saw outside wasn't bankers. They were hustlers. And so innately, I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur, right? Obviously, when I saw them get picked up by the cops, I was like, I want to be a different entrepreneur.
I don't want to be Franklin Saint.
Yeah, definitely. don't follow that path, right? But that opened up my mind to like what else is out there other than just like what I see on the street. Like what else is entrepreneurs doing and how it's growing? And I understood one thing that was extremely important. That was building wealth. And every person that I looked up had two things in common. They either own the business or they own a shit ton of real estate. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I want to get into real estate, right? And I ended up getting into real estate. It was hard because I didn't have anything around me, anyone around me. So I learned the long and hard way, got my degree from University of YouTube. And I mastered my skill by failing a lot, right? I think that's one of the key things. Like I wasn't afraid to fail. Like I'm not afraid to look bad in front of people, because that's not my goal. My goal isn't to impress you. My goal is for you to be impressed by what I've done, so that you can now try to emulate and do some of the things to be inspired by what I've done, right? So that was the key thing for me. And so got started in real estate, got into wholesaling, met a bunch of great people, including yourself, at a local event. Shout out to my guy Max. He did his first event.
Shout out to Max.
What up, Max? What up, Max?
Carolina. Met a couple of amazing individuals there, including my business partner right here. Well, one of my business partners. And you know, ever since then, man, we've been rocking, bro. It's been taking off to the I can't even say roof or the skies, because there's no
stratosphere.
Yeah, stratosphere. That's no, there's no limit to it, right? And so that's how I got started into real estate, man. Just following what I felt was going to be right in order to build wealth. That was always my thing. As much as I seen my parents hustle, they were always hustling.
I love that, man. And before we move on to Ivan, there's one thing that you said and I want to touch on is you were not scared to fail. Yeah. Right? So would you say, because it feels like what really separates the people that really jump out there and get into entrepreneurship is being scared to fail.
Right.
Right? So it's like, where was your mindset? Like, what kind of mindset do you got to have to not be scared to fail? Because everyone is just like, I want the security.
Yeah.
All right, I want the steady paycheck.
Yeah.
But you were like, man, F that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get out here. I'm not scared to fail.
No, it was very clear to me at a young age that you can't have both at the same time, right? You can't have security and freedom at the same time. It's impossible. Like literally, they can't exist in the same thing. If you have like the people who have like really, really secure jobs have absolutely no freedom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you get paid a lot of money. You love your job. This and that, third. If I say, hey, let's go to London tomorrow. You'd be like, oh, hold on, let me check.
Gotta take time
off. I can't. Can we do it? That's not freedom.
Yeah.
Right? So even though you live a comfortable lifestyle, which is great, especially if that's what you want, that's great. But I was always looking after like freedom, right? Like my parents didn't have that. My parents are Haitian immigrant, did what they had to do to come to the States. I'm first generation.
Oh, wow.
So growing up in that environment, I knew early on that freedom was something I was after. Lifestyle was something I was after. And how I learned to fail quickly and fail forward was watching other people. Like I look for the people who like made a success. Like I look up Elon or Bill Gates and stuff there, and people look at like what made them great. I look at where was their mistakes, where they fell, how did they fail? Because that always proves to me the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is successful people failed a whole lot more, really, really fast, whereas unsuccessful people have smaller failures. So that's what made the difference. It was like, okay, bet, I get it. The secret to this is being able to fail.
So failure's been like a teacher for you.
It's the best. It's the only teacher.
Yep.
You can't find me any entrepreneur that has any inkling of success that can't give you their failure stories. And they got tons of them. Tons.
Wow.
Listen, I can read you down. The more successful that they are, the more failures that they have. So that's a clue.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful in life, you have to stop being afraid to fail or be okay with the other option.
Yeah. Yeah. Nope. That's very crucial what you touched on, man. I want to go real deep into that, but we got to get into who my boy Ivan is. So Ivan, let the people know who you are, how you got into real estate, man.
What up, world? It's your boy Ivan. I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Justin, for having us.
What's the Instagram handle?
Oh, but look, the Instagram handle is Sneaker RE Investor. Spell out Sneaker
Talk to
RE Investor.
Talk to
Stop
him.
trying to play me. I'm popping up on these podcasts because I need some followers. Okay, y'all see these gray hairs and y'all don't want to follow me. Look, I need some followers. All right, so get on my page, please. But man, look, I've been an entrepreneur a long time, right? And I say that because piggybacking on what Eddie said, I've had a lot of failures.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just, I look back at those things now and I'm like, oh wow, that was terrible. What was I doing? But it was just, they were all great learning experiences, right? But I grew up in South Georgia, in Valdosta, for most of my adolescent years, and so then I went on to play basketball in college, went on to law school at the University of Richmond, and then I moved back to Atlanta and started practicing here. And really early on, I was in Atlanta at a time when the music industry, this was early 2000s, the music industry was just really about to explode in Atlanta. This, LaFace had already kind of, planted the flag here. So Def had kind of planted the flag. And now the music industry was about to explode. And so I just happened to start making some relationships, really through, I love sneakers. Really through my love for sneakers, I started to meet other people because the entertainment industry in Atlanta at that time was still kind of small. The group of people. And, they like clothes and shoes too. So started to meet some people like, what do you do? Oh, what do you do? And met a guy named Ken Lowe and started to help him, and he started to introduce me to other people and man, I want you to do this for me. And so it just kind of grew. And I was like, well, hey, one of the things that at one of the firms I worked at, one of the partners told me, a guy named Ed Downs, he said, look, Ivan, I'll pay you well. I'll always pay you well for your work, right? But I'll never make you wealthy because this is my business.
You're building his dream.
Yeah, he's like, this is my business. He's like, one thing I always want you to remember is a successful life is about ownership. And I never forgot that. And so as I'm making these relationships and doing work for the people, I'm like, shoot, I could just do this on my own, right?
Yeah.
So got out there and was able to start a consulting company and have a lot of success, still own that today. And, started, but some of the failures I had, I tried to start a tutoring business because I worked at a tutoring business in Richmond, Virginia that was very successful. I'm like, I'm going to do that here. Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was just such a massive failure. But I learned. I was like, there were some things that I could have done differently. I should have set it up a different way, had more protocols in place. So it was a learning lesson, or a lesson learned. Then I go on to, big sneaker guy, going to start a sneaker shop, right, called Blacktop. We were having a lot of success. And then, of course, hey, look, us people of color, somebody drove a truck through the front door. And, I was like, okay, look, I'm not doing this. This seemed like it's going to happen all the time. So moved on from that. But another lesson learned, right? And so it's funny. Speaking of Maxwell, that's kind of how I got into the real estate space.
Okay.
Saw what he was doing.
Now, was this on YouTube, social media?
No, this was in person.
Okay.
This was in person.
You want to touch on your backstory of kind of how you knew Max before he even got into
Max
real estate?
had a technology company and was working with one of my clients.
Oh, okay.
And I remembered him from that. And so I actually ran into him years later and asked him about, what he was doing. He's like, man, I'm in real estate and I'm killing it. And I was like, was you agent? I didn't know. I'm like, what I knew about real estate was rental properties, buy a house, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I know some real agents out here killing it. You know what I mean? He's like, nah, man, I'm on the investment side. I'm doing like mostly wholesale. Like, what in the world is that?
Yeah, what the hell is wholesale?
It's wholesale. Right. And so, kind of broke down and then it was when you mentioned contract assignment, that wasn't something that was foreign because that happens in really every industry. Right? In entertainment, let's say you got an artist and, the artist isn't, they feel like they can't market this artist anymore. They don't have the department or leadership. They can assign the rights to that contract to a label who doesn't get some fees on the back end, publishing, whatever. So contract assignment happens in a lot of industries, not just, real estate, right? So I was familiar with that. But when I heard how much he was making, I was like, I need to know more about this because I'm not making that much money, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, multiples a year, right? So, I, again, like we all have, started looking up on YouTube, what's this wholesaling stuff, Saw all these different people talking. Sean Terry, we don't even talk about him anymore. What happened to Sean Terry?
Sean, he's the guy. Listen, he's the guy you don't talk about because he's such an OG.
Yeah, but
he should have.
Sean Terry, Max was on there. So I'm watching all these people. I'm like, okay, this is doable, right? Get out there, start driving for dollars. And this was in March of 2018. And I remember I closed my first deal. I made all kinds of mistakes. The funny thing is, one of the things that sports taught me, playing basketball for as long as I did and as competitively as I did, was that, look, you ain't going to win every game, but there's always another one, right? And so too many people are risk averse, especially in our communities, people of color. Yeah. We come from risk averse communities. Like, oh no, get you a good job, work for 30 years, get your 401k, risk averse. Life, if you're gonna live a life different from everybody else, there's gonna be some risk involved. You're gonna have to take some risk. Now, they could be calculated risk, but it's gonna be some risk. So I've never been afraid to take risk because I'm like, okay, this is the only way I'm gonna be able to live a life that's different from everybody that I know. Right. And so this was no different. So I'm just doing what, I see Max talking about, or I see Sean Terry. I'm just doing that, driving for dollars, calling people that really don't know what I'm saying, just fumbling my way through. 231 Wellington. We always remember our first, right? I got the house, and the house had all kind of problems. It was the owner lived in Africa. Her son was power of attorney here. It had code violations. It actually had the steel on it. So it had code violations. She had some liens. It had been to the tax sale. Okay, so we had to redeem it. This is my first deal. I'm learning all these things on one house.
You got broken in real good. Bro.
One house.
You got the crash course. Here you go.
Yo, and at that time, being in Atlanta, as long as I had by then, the West End was on the come up. Now I remember when I first moved here, in the West End, you can get somebody a house.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you want to live in West End? Hey, look, man, just take my house. Right? And at this point in time, back in 2018, the West End was on the come up. Yep. Right? And so this house happened to be in the West End. And I went to closing. The closing attorneys kind of laughed like, oh, this is a doozy. But I ended up making $20,000 on the deal.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yo, so I can make 20 grand just calling people, working through their issues. I didn't touch a hammer. I didn't, screw anything in. Oh, this is where it's at. And then it was, I hit the ground running. And then, months later, meet you guys at Max's event in October of that year. Me and Eddie join up, partner up to get this journey started, start to grow along with you. And here we are. Here we are, man. And, it's a beautiful journey, but it's a journey. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned something, just like Eddie, you mentioned failure, right? Now, you said you had many failures.
Many.
Right?
Many.
What kept you from saying, man, screw this, I'm going to go get a job.
Yeah.
I'm tired of failing at business.
Right.
Like, what kept you going?
Number one is my competitive nature.
Okay.
Okay? I don't care who you are. If you tell me, oh, I can do this, I'm doing this, I'm killing, I'm like, shit, man, look, you ain't no better than me. That's just my mindset. Like, and again, I think sports has helped me cultivate that mindset.
Yeah.
Of like, look, if you can do it, I know I can do it, right? So that's really my drive. Some of that's just innate, right? Mm-hmm. It's just that drive. Like, look, when I'm looking at Max and seeing how much money, I'm like, man, I could do that too,
yep.
Right? So some of that's just the drive, and it's the want to, kind of that inner want to provide and to be able to just freedom, right? Freedom, time is the only non-renewable resource, right? We're not getting today back. It's not coming back. You're not going to be able to refresh it, so to speak. Today's gone. Today's January 20th, 2023. It ain't coming back. It's gone. So I want to be able to control that time that I have. I want to be able to do the things with the time that I think are best suited for me and my family. The only way to do that is to be able to control your income, right? We live in a capitalistic country. Yep. It's just what it is. If you ain't making no money, you're going to live a bad life in America. This is a capitalistic country, and it ain't going to change no time soon.
No, it's not.
So you better learn real quickly. I got to get to this bread if I want to have control of my time. Yep. And that's part of my drive is I want to control my time. I don't want somebody else telling me when I can take a vacation. Oh, I like this. Oh, my wife really likes this. Let's buy that. Oh, no, I can't afford it. I don't want to live that life, right? Yeah. And so that's my drive. Yeah. I want to continue to grow and be in a position, to build with others and community. And community is big for me too. I want to see the community grow and get better and more knowledgeable and change generations to come. So that's really what it is for me.
Love it, man. Nico.
Yo.
You're the young buck, bro.
Young buck,
24
baby
years old,
boy.
Man. Introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about your origin story. How'd you get into real estate?
Absolutely. And to kind of piggyback on what they said, and I'll dive into it, but failing fast, right? And not being afraid to fail. Because what's the other option? I'm going to stay in place. That's a failure too, right? Like not doing anything is even more of a mistake than failing and trying and not getting it right. And so, to kick it back, I'm gonna go way back.
Way back.
Way back.
It only goes so far.
So I'm born and raised in Atlanta. I'm a North Side baby, and grew up like on the North Side of Atlanta. And when I was young, I had natural sales, just connecting with people, just like talking to people. I was the kid that would always be asking questions to the point where you'd tell me to fuck off. Like, but not really, but in like oh God, this kid's persistent, right? And so that one example I remember, we had a garage sale, real young. This granddad walks up. He was like, "Oh," I walked up and I was like, "Hey, you got kids? You want to buy toys?" He's like, "No, my kids are grown." I was like, "You got grandkids?" And I'm like 5 at the time. And I like grab his hand, walk him over the toys. And so that's just back to the origin of like, we're all kind of built like this. This is just who we are as individuals. That was one of my earliest stories of that. But to fast forward a little bit, my first ever job was at a Planet Smoothie. And I ended up being the highest ticket on the cash register, upselling people, getting them to purchase stuff. But my income stayed at $7.25. And so I was like, okay, that was like the first, like, okay, no matter how hard I go with this, it's still fixed.
You're capped.
Yeah, you're capped, right? And so after that Planet Smoothie job, did some lifeguarding and stuff, but my sister got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when she was 14 and I was 16. And we grew up hooping, we're hoopers. So basketball is a big part of just what she liked to do and what I still do, not as much as I want to, but still do. And so she had went from this 5'8", 5'7", she's always tall, not like big, but like not skinny, right? And when she got diagnosed with Crohn's, or ulcerative colitis, not Crohn's, excuse me, she ended up going from this happy girl that was in sports, that was loving her life, to, okay, I have a PICC line in my chest, I have a PICC line in my arm, nurses are coming to the house bi-weekly, and I'm about to be faced with the decision of, do I get my large intestine removed from my body? Yeah, because in depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, all that was going through her head.
Wow.
As this 14, 15-year-old girl that just got taken out of, I think it was middle school at the time. She got taken out of middle school, out of her classes, started doing homeschool, and that really did a lot to her. And so I'm like, I didn't really realize how bad it was until some of the, like, probably about 6 months in, because you know, it's like, well, what's going on with Naomi? And we start to figure out, and I'm like, oh, okay. About 2 weeks before she was about to get her large intestine removed from her body, scheduled the surgery, was about to have the not colonoscopy, but just the sac on her hip to be able to, the spool sac. Did my research and found out that weed is a great antidote for people dealing with Crohn's, with ulcerative colitis. The reason I keep getting those switched up, UC is just of your large intestine, Crohn's is your whole digestional tract. So they're similar but not the same, right? And so when I found out about that, and when I did my research, I had to get my sister on board with it. She's 14 at the time, 15 at the time, so she's young, right? But I'm like, I can't sit here and watch you just die in front of me, right? And just continue to just get worse and worse and worse. And so she gave it a try. And lo and behold, it started to work. She got more consistent with it, used it in balance. She got like a 4-point-something GPA, just graduated UGA, right? But let's backtrack again. So she started to put on that weight that she was losing. She got the PICC line out of her arm. She got the PICC line out of her chest. Nurses stopped coming to the house twice a week for those nutrient transfusions where she would just sit there and be in pain and cry and just be miserable. And realized that if I just keep getting weed for her like this, I ran myself broke pretty fast. And I'm glad I realized that at 16, in order to subsidize something, you have to figure out how to basically have enough of it to where it pays for itself. Yep. And so around that age, 16, 17, started to subsidize her medicine, which was weed, right? And I did that through just doing what I had to make sure when I got in stuff, I made enough to have it replace itself and her have enough to where her medicine was her medicine. Mm-hmm. And she didn't have to worry about buying it. She didn't have to worry about any of that. And so that was my first business principles into business, understanding, okay, cost per acquisition, what are you making on your return? A lot of these things that like I didn't know what they were. Yeah, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was laying the foundation for being a business owner, right? And so fast forward, I go to college. And even in high school, I was getting laughed at my lunch table for wanting to get into real estate. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna be a realtor? Nobody's gonna want to sell a house." Yeah, it's
He went to private school.
People that don't get it,
it's a little different than
people that. In my last 2 years, I was at private school, but I had a good dynamic of my first 2 years were at public school, and then I went to private school for sports, and so I had a really good dynamic of okay, public school is great, but I've seen some of these kids at private school that their families are just doing crazy shit. Like when I say crazy shit, just anything you can think of in terms of like big houses, Italy, Prague, wherever you wanted to go, all the stuff that I'm like, how do they do that? So that was another part of the inquisitive aspect of things into that. Got my license as a freshman at 19 at Georgia College. Finished my freshman year, passed my test at the end of freshman year to get my license. And then I was like, hey, friends and family, let me sell y'all's houses. And y'all know how that shit goes.
Yeah.
It's a respectful fuck off, right?
So you started your journey as a real estate agent.
Yeah. So I got my license like the first thing. That's why I'm 24 and a broker now, because I just got that out the way real young, right? And so when I was when I was doing that, I was still doing what I did with subsidizing the pack and was making comfortable money off that. And was just trying to reach out to friends and family like, hey, Nico, I'm Nikhil. Let me sell your house. Nico, let me sell your house. That didn't go well, but I was still comfortable from the other stuff. And so fast forward first semester of sophomore year, doing school, bullshitting, same old story, right? Had my license still, but wasn't really doing anything with it. Ended up dropping out second semester senior year and absolutely flopped with my time management, with my ability to self-start, with my ability to do these things that I'm like are needed for being an entrepreneur, right? I'm like, what do I do? And more than just that too, I had some stuff going on in my personal life that, I mean, shit, lady trouble, right? That can get in your head sometimes, but don't let it. But we all are human, so we all have to learn and go through experiences to get to where we're at. And so for a good 3, 4, 5, 6 months, just in my head, not really doing anything, depressed, anxious, not in school. And I was raised by a single mom, and so
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Your people don't play that.
Yeah, and so even being raised by a single mom, my grandparents had a big part in my life, and they're like, "Beta, if you're not doctor, lawyer, go back to school, education." And my mom grew up. I'm the first generation born over here. My mom grew up here though since she was like 3 though, so she's more with the culture of just America in general, right? And so I let them talk me into going back into school, and had an idea that summer before I left, right when I moved into my apartment up in Milledgeville, for this vision of capturing what Milledgeville was when the college kids pulled up. And I called it Millie Vegas. And so even before I had a song, beat, anything other than just a rerunning picture in my head that I couldn't shake, I was like, March 2nd. It's August at this time, right? I'm like, March 2nd, my 21st birthday. I'm going to have everything done, and we're going to film this music video on March 2nd. And so was still depressed and anxious in school, but was pushing through, was getting stuff done to kind of push to that vision. March 2nd comes along, and lo and behold, the song's done. Every single bar and club in Milledgeville is letting me and my camera crews come through. Fraternity, my apartment complex, we're throwing a charity event, and the barbershop. We have all the locations secured. We have the map, everything we need to really get this going. So filmed in 12 hours, got all the footage that we needed. And, I say that to say once that music video came out, it's not so much the project itself, it's the idea of understanding I'm a visionary. And all life is manifesting visions you see in your head of what you want for your life. Mm. And that 8 months between August and March where it wasn't there, but I chipped away at it. The result at the end, seeing that chipping leading to where it did, and this beautiful project that for a first one, I mean, I'm blessed, but I'll keep outdoing myself. Music's still part of my plans, but it was a drug, right? And so dropped out of college the second time, and you can imagine my mom and grandparents are fucking livid. Oh my God, it didn't work the first time. Fuck, are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like what's going on?
Conversation got different.
Yeah. Changed up real quick.
And I'm like, no, I got this. Like, I got this, right?
How old were you when this happened?
21.
Okay.
So 21
so this
years.
is recent.
2019. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy, man. Stuff will, feels so long when you're in it sometimes. When you look back, it's like, holy shit. But dropped out again with the focus of being an investor, using my license as a tool in my tool belt. That's part of this bigger plan of, the best way to put it is taking the Diddy, Jay-Z path, but in my own way with my own blueprint, but creative stuff mixed with business, mixed with just bringing stuff to life, right? And just helping people along the way. Well, when I dropped out, I was blessed to meet up with Ivan off of a Zillow cold call. This is when I didn't have a whole lot of experience, but was still licensed, trying to do wholesaling, right? And I was like, Ivan, I didn't even know his name. So I was like, hey, what's up? I got a buyer that would potentially want to buy this, but I'm not the buyer, full transparency. But can you sell this to me so I can go ahead and just assign it to my buyer? Just like straight up, just the worst fucking sales call. And it was a Zillow for sale by owner lead too. That's the funny thing. And we were going back and forth, was talking to him. I think I showed you the music video when we was talking, right? And so it ended up leading to me and him grabbing a bite to eat. And when we sat down to grab a bite to eat, it turns out that I grew up with a lot of the same people that he knows and has known for a while. And so it was kind of crazy how that connected. We have our own investment firms in addition to being partners on the brokerage. And so with the investment firm stuff, this man have both been mentors and just blessings to me since I got in the game, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Yeah. And so even after I met Ivan, though, it took me 9 months to close my first deal. I had 12 deals fall out. I had sellers bitching, threatening to sue, a lot of mistakes that were made. But I told myself I wasn't going to stop for the same reasons that you talked about, and you talked about.
Why did you make those mistakes? Like, why did it take 9 months to close your first deal?
You know, that fear of failure is something that us as people deal with, but that pushing through happens at your own pace with everybody, right?
Yeah,
True.
Yeah,
True.
And so understanding that was part of it, but also, you know, sometimes deals just don't close, right? And so I wasn't having the right approach. We have a whole MLS dispo system now where we can sell deals that are under contract to the retail market with the right expectation set. I didn't know about any of that. I was just, okay, let me lie to you that I'm the buyer and then hope I pair this with a buyer that can buy it. And if I don't, I'm just going to go ghost on you. Right. So that was like, I'm like, this isn't it. Like, I got to figure out this shit for real. But fast forward 9 months, starts to click over time, right? It's like dribbling a basketball. LeBron didn't start out as LeBron, and I use LeBron over Michael.
I think you should probably use Michael.
Yeah,
I think you should use Michael.
But you look at him now, and he's had a 20-year career.
Yeah.
And he's literally he's playing against dudes' sons, and he played against their dad.
Yeah, but you see, Michael's got the killer instinct that I don't know if LeBron has.
Regardless of the Mike LeBron, regardless
won enough times.
Regardless of the Mike LeBron debate, right?
But I get it. LeBron should play for 20 more years to try to catch up to Jordan.
Listen.
He do a Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And so, understanding that is one of the reasons I didn't want to stop. I already had my license. I'm like, fuck being a realtor. It just felt like another job. Being an investor, okay, cool. I get to create my spreads. I get to be able to approach this from a different perspective in order to get deals done, provide value, and get stuff done. And so even after I started doing deals, it's that when you build a business and we're all dealing with this now, but it's a higher peak in a lower valley, right?
Yeah.
And so it's understanding that allowed me to just keep going. Building consistency, hey, regardless of what happens, I'm going to figure this shit out. And then Shay was also a big help too, having somebody that believed in the vision, in addition to my brothers, that was right there with me, even when stuff got hard, when I wanted to give up. Because we've all gone through every emotion on our journey to be where we're at and go where we're going. There's going to be a lot more of just, we're humans,
So
right?
let me ask you this, because you mentioned when you dropped out of college the second time, your family was like, what the F? Like, what the hell is going on here, right?
Yeah.
So what kept you going? Like, what kept you from being discouraged from saying, man, I don't want to disappoint my family. Like, I'm going to get out here. I'm going to be successful.
I got a chip on my shoulder, and I still have that chip to this day, and I'm never going to chip's not going nowhere.
So what's the dynamic now?
Oh, they love it. They fucking love it. They're just like, hey, figure out how to be the best dad you can be and just be a really good, just father, be a good partner to just mother of your kids and just be those things outside of money now, right? Because as you start to make money, you realize, all right, to Ivan's point, this is a resource for options, but this is not life. Yeah. Right. This is part of this matrix that we're in. And so how do I make so much money that I don't have to feel like I'm in this matrix? I can just do what I want with options.
Yeah.
And so that's really one of the things you talked about, freedom, that was there from that too. And so it's just that path of wanting to be out of the matrix, wanting freedom, wanting to wake up and be like, okay, cool, let's manifest these visions. And even having done the music video stuff allowed me to understand how powerful it is when you have a compelling vision that is grounded in faith. And so when you have that vision that's grounded in faith, you're in a position. My alarm went off. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
It's in the garage. We can cut that out. So when you have that vision that's grounded in faith, it allows you to go through bullshit and be like, why would I stop here if I'm going through it, right? Yeah. And so it, those lessons, those blessings that I got along the way, slowly continue to, not even, it feels slow in the moment, but looking back, I guess it's pretty fast, right? Yeah. But just start to compound and compound and compound. And was blessed at 19 to get my license. So 22, 23 came along. I'm a broker now. Got my own brokerage. But I'm like, hey, I'm very loyal. These guys poured into me when I really didn't know shit, when I was figuring it out. And so more than, in addition to them being super smart and super qualified for doing it, turned around and was like, let's build this brokerage together. And so in addition to the investment firm, and they have Blacktop, I have Top Buyers, we own Top Brokerage together. And now we're in a position where we're about to be in 40 plus states in the next 3 to 6 months, with our subscription model that's going to be the most cost-effective means to distribution across the entire industry.
Yep. So let's get into that. So Top Brokerage. What is Top Brokerage? What does Top Brokerage do?
So Top Brokerage was built out of my investment firm leveraging the MLS during our A to B contract to be able to find buyers, because all these guys were wholesaling off market. And I'm like, that's great, but you're taking your deals and you're bringing them to the middleman that's just going to throw it on the MLS and find a buyer and make a spread. So I was like, what if there's a way where we set expectations, make this a part of our process before we take possession, and then potentially can sell to the retail market before we even take possession. So I was doing that in my business for probably 3.5 years, 3 years now, something like that.
Let me say something. Like that thought process that he had started, that vision started like way back when. Like when he was still figuring out wholesaling, he started to get it and was like working with him, teaching him.
That's when it started cranking in his brain.
Because he would be like, hey, I got this idea about what if instead of us doing that, like what if we just put on MLS? And we're like, you can't do that. Or you gotta be an agent. He was like, yeah, but I have agents. I was like, but you still can't do that because the way that, especially the way things were at the time, it was just it was a no-no, right? And he was just like, well, why not?
It wasn't. There's always been a way to
pushback.
Oh, absolutely. Because you got to think. So you got this new young kid, right? That's like, he wants it. He's going after it, right? And we're teaching him wholesaling. He actually used to cold call. We used to do sales training.
For us, yeah.
Then he's like, all right, bet. And he's like, I distinctively remember saying to him, like, why do you want this so bad? Right? And he was like, because I think it can work. I was like, all right, well, here's what we do. I said, if you build out your wholesaling company first, right? You build out your wholesaling company, you're already an agent. We'll help you. We'll give you anything and everything that you need so that you can go become a broker. I say, if you can become a broker, we'll come on board and we'll push this thing to the top.
So you guys pretty much play like mentors to Nico when he was starting his journey?
Yeah, I mean, he called me, as he mentioned. He called me.
You remember the contract call when I called you freaking out?
Yeah, he called me.
This shit is hilarious.
I didn't know who he was. Called me, about a deal, and I'm like, man, this dude don't know what he talking about. And I told him that. I was like, man, you don't know what you're doing, do you? He's like, man, I'm just getting started, man, trying to figure this out. So we started talking, and I saw his drive. I saw, his will to want to be successful, which is very important.
Yep.
And he was still young, still is young, right? And so we kind of brought him in our business. started to train him on some of the things that he could do better.
Mind you, this is like we're still new.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
We were
a few years old. What, 2 years?
Yeah.
No, not even that. Like a year. Like a year. Like a year in.
And I remember he calls me. He's like, "Yo, I got this kid. You know what I mean? I want you to, pour in some this, that, and third." I'm like, "Bro, I ain't got time for no mentorship right now. Like, we building a company." I was like, "Who's the kid?"
Yeah.
Right? So this dude, he used to play ball with, a coach, a friend of a coach,
Yeah, friend of mine.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm just like, bro, like well, most people don't know, Ivan has like a big heart, right? Like from the conception of our company, we've always had like a division where anyone who's like, yo, I really want to learn how to do this, they automatically get put into the company. Yeah. And it was like an earn while you learn program, like from the beginning, right? And so it was always just like, oh, we got another one. All right, come on in. You know what I mean? It's almost like one of those like homeless shelters. Like, come on, you come on, right? And then you like, right? But here's how amazing that is, right? One, it allowed us to refine our structure, our system, and our sales training. Because every time a new person came in, training starts all over again. Right? And it also allowed the cream to rise to the top. So by the time Nico came on board, it was like, he different, right? And his consistency was like top tier. Top. Yeah. Right? Pause. Or unpause if you're
Depending on the audience.
But the crazy thing about it is it's like, even though, and I want him to continue on with like explaining exactly like how this thing came, but I want everybody to understand like it started from a vision and a dream that he had that he didn't give up on. Okay. And most people give up on their vision.
That's important to touch on.
Yeah,
I'll show you the notebook, dude. Like I still the blue notebooks around here somewhere. Fucking scratch everywhere on there. You remember meetings I was showing up to, just this, that, and the third, and it's just it's a marathon. I've definitely felt every emotion on this journey, from anxiety to fear to this to that to anything you can name. We've all as people gone through, right, in our own ways.
But you kept going.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah. What else am I going to do? Stop and just sit there? Like that? Like that's just as bad, if not worse, right?
Yeah.
And so, really, really dope with Top Brokerage because we're able to look at it from the perspective of we're investors first and foremost.
Yep.
So how does this brokerage serve investors? But here's the cool thing too. Sellers that might sell a couple properties a year, Top Brokerage, that's not really our avatar, but we have an option for them too. But with our subscription model to our brokerage, these investors have the ability, as long as they have the legally compliant things that are needed in order to ethically, legally, and from an expectation standpoint setting, get this property on market, they're going to have access with our subscription model to list in every single state that we're in. Yep. And so instead of paying 1% or 3% to list your property, all these investors or sellers have to do is worry about the buyer's agent, but they get the same distribution channels that they were paying a lot more for, right? And all they have to do is handle coordinating photos, coordinating buyers to come in the property with fielding the offers, and that that's the access piece, and the calls from these buyers or buyers agents. The things that, I mean, shoot, if I'm selling my own house, I want to be first on the line as to who's calling, because sometimes when you play telephone with these agents, I mean, shoot, you guys know it. Like, there's probably 10%, 5% of agents that are good. The rest of them, in my opinion,
like 5% that answer the damn phone.
Oh, exactly.
That's the worst part.
Exactly, right?
Gosh.
And so started to create Top Brokerage out of course, a vertically integrated resource for our investment firms. But we're the type to, back to Pace and Jamil, those are some of our mentors as a collective, right? They operate from abundance. And so from an abundance standpoint, I thought it was super selfish if I just kept this bottled up for just us to use. Yeah. And started, we were on a call. We didn't even have a subscription model until we came up with that shit together.
Yeah. Like, because it was needed. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have, before we did what we did, you did not have a brokerage that was solely dedicated to investors, which is kind of crazy to say that out loud now. If you really think about it, like, investors deal with real estate. Why wouldn't we have a brokerage? that
So
you
help me understand. Like, is Top Brokerage kind of like a dispo arm for?
Yeah.
Exactly.
The layman's, the Cliff Notes version, right?
Okay.
For the people who are listening, who are just getting into real estate, are newer to real estate. I'm gonna give you the Cliff Notes version and help everybody understand better what Top Brokerage is.
Before you hop into that, I can know after because I was going to talk about just the cost. Yeah.
Top Brokerage is, as Eddie mentioned, a brokerage that is specifically built for investors with investors in mind, by investors with investors in mind, right? So what it does is it gives, if you're an investor who's wholesaling, right? You're marketing, you're calling, you're texting, knocking doors, whatever you're doing. You're getting these deals under contract, right? And traditionally what you're taught, which is the right thing to do, push it out to cash buyers, right? Who are looking for properties to renovate or properties to have as rentals or whatever. And that's great. But what the MLS provides is thousands and thousands and thousands of more eyes to view your property, which gets you better offers, which makes you more money as a real estate investor who's participating in wholesaling. So now, typically you wouldn't have that option. You have to go through all these hoops and do all these different things to get that property in front of those thousands and thousands of eyes. What Top Brokerage does is give you the opportunity to use the MLS in conjunction with whatever disposition you're already doing. So let's say you send it to your cash buyers, but you also, because you have a subscription or you're using Top Brokerage, you're also putting it on the MLS. Now you're like, hey, let me see what cash buyer offer. Oh, that's 30,000 less than what I'm gonna get on the MLS, right? So now you have a even larger disposition arm that's probably costing you less than what you're paying your disposition team that you already got.
Well, listen to this, right? Let's use a case study. So we have a client, right? And one of the great things is Top Brokerage doesn't matter what market we're currently in, right? Like right now, we're currently coming off of a high off of the market. It's changing. And so cash buyers' appetite is totally different. Yep. And so people if you're an investor, if you're wholesaling, you gotta learn, like, all right, how do I pivot? How do I make this thing still work, right? And so you're reaching out. We had a client that reached out, had a deal, got it under contract, sent it out to all their cash buyers, right? All the ones that said they buy it. And they're either coming back with offers that are way too low because there's no spread. Like, there's not enough spread for the deal to make sense, even for the person that they were trying to sell the house for, because she needed so much. She was in a health situation, okay? So they can't afford to give you a super discount just because the market is not as high as it once was. It's a fair market price, so that's what they're trying to sell. They had it for a week. They hit us up. We put it on market. They went through the process, put it on market. Within 24 hours, they had 9 offers. Ooh. They end up getting it sold. It just sold this morning. It took 7 days.
Cash buyers come in. That's the thing too, right? Big part of this. So wholesaling is an exit strategy that you can use this for. But if you're a fix and flipper, with our subscription plans, if you're doing more than 2 deals a month, it makes sense to pick one of our subscription plans, right? Because with the 3K, 1,500, and 500 options, it's 0.13, 0.25, and 0.5. So if you compare that to a 1 or 3% agent at $1 million, that's $10,000 versus $4,300.
When you say 0.13, you're talking about the percentage of
on
what
the
it's going
back
to
end.
cost.
But if the deal doesn't sell, it's different than a flat fee upfront service. You're not paying upfront regardless if the listing sells. Or if the listing doesn't sell, you're not paying upfront because you're a subscriber. You have access to all the markets we're in, so you can shoot your shot. And so any type of, even these funds that need to liquidate, they're going to love us. We're going to start reaching out to them. Buy and hold investors that want to liquidate their portfolio, fix and flip investors, wholesalers, and even people getting into the industry that want to have a disposition arm that truly does. Think about this, right? We've been taught to wholesale by going to an off-market investor, and that off-market investor takes it to the market. Me being a broker and us having a brokerage that's not focused on bringing on agents cuts out 2 middlemen from the transaction. 2 middlemen. The investor that you would sell your deal to off-market that would go ahead and list it on market. And if you were to list it on market, that agent has a broker. So that broker needs to get paid and the agent needs to get paid. So they're not in a position where they can give you the cost-effective means to distribution like we can, because they have a middleman there. And so by taking out those two middlemen and by sellers and investors setting expectations with the people they're working with, if they're not the owner of record and they have equitable interest through the purchase agreement with the correct rights and the correct documents in place, it allows you to take your deals and sell them to the retail market. So instead of dealing with two middlemen that inevitably are going to have to make money for their services, you cut that out and you replace that with a fixed cost that then allows you to have a minimal variable cost on the back end.
So I never need to take ownership of the property then.
No. You have equitable ownership, right? So you have to have the purchase contract with the legal rights to market, and every state's a little different. So we have a checklist, as like I said, we're about to be in 40 plus states in the next 3 to 6 months. We're going to have a checklist that our broker in that state and our admin team checks through before anything goes live, because compliancy and making sure that we do good business is super important for us and do it the right way. And also these sellers, these investors that are using our service, in addition to it being in writing, we expect them to orally set expectations with their seller verbally, right? Because we don't want to deal with the investor that's like, snuck it in on you, right? And so that's part of our process. That's going to be consistent as we scale. But the overarching theme is, how do we give this to the masses because it's benefited us so well? And at the end of the day, if we can get the seller more money and still get the deal done and make sure our families are fed, that's a win-win for everybody.
And so different. If I'm a struggling wholesaler, 2023, we all know the market is completely different right now, right?
Yeah.
Last 2 years, the market's been completely hot. I mean, if you had a freaking pulse, it was easy.
Yeah, you can move a deal. Right? Yep.
This, to me, just listening to this, sounds like it's a whole nother exit strategy. One.
Yeah.
But two, it could literally like save a business from going under, because cash buyers right now,
they're drying up.
Pennies on the dollar.
They're drying up. They're drying up.
If you do volume too, like some of the shout out to Gino and Chandler, shout out to Ren and Clint. They're doing 20 plus deals a month. If you get into the volume numbers of, say somebody does 15 million, so let's just say $15 million houses in 1 year, which for some of these investors is a quarter, right? If you're with a 1% agent, that's $150K. If you're with a 3% agent, that's $450,000. With us, it's $22,500. Wow. Now, of course, you have the monthly subscription, so that was only counting in 1 month subscription. But even over 6 months, it comes out to exponentially cheaper over a year.
Let's say you're not, right? Let's say you're maybe you're doing 2-3 deals a month. Maybe last year was like your first good year, and then the market changed. And you're like, oh shit, like what am I supposed to do now? And everybody's active. Everybody's looking for new cash buyers. But especially in the time that we're in right now, cash buyers are still trying to figure out what's the bottom price. Like, where can I really invest my money? Because it's very simple, right? They're buying properties. They're going to spend 3 months, 4 months max trying to fix it up, get it out, and then realize like, oh shit, interest rates went up again. I've lost 30% of what I could sell it for. So now when they're buying properties, they're trying to buy it already projecting where they think interest rates is going to be at in the future. Mm-hmm. So that's why they need it lower. The MLS doesn't operate off of that. It's two different buying pools, right? The MLS, you have individuals who are already coming with their own backing, with the finances to be able to purchase it, and they're looking for deals in a market that there aren't enough deals. That's the only thing that didn't change. In the last couple of years, we saw as prices went higher and higher, it was because it was still not a lot of inventory. Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of inventory that can't be moved because they got locked up at too high prices or hedge funds got caught with their pants down. But you still have the need of housing. Yeah. Especially in some of these big markets. So it's one of those scenarios where you're like, okay, well, what's the best way for me to disposition this deal? The one location where, and if you ask, you can literally ask a person who just come to the United States and say, how do you buy and sell a house? And they'll know that they either have to do with an agent or they're going to have to do with something on the MLS.
Yeah. Well, and also to piggyback on that too, I know we talked about being able to cut out the middleman of the investor off market and an agent, right, with using a service. There's no other service like Top Brokerage with using Top Brokerage. And so the other thing you're able to do too instead of selling, to Eddie's point, to buyers that need a cash on cash and a yield and a this and a that, you sell to somebody who wants a house for their family. And if you have, so here's the cool thing. FHA loans have seasoning periods. But if you learn how to novate and you set front end expectations, that's your ability to sell any of your deals to the retail market before you take possession. Because we all, if anybody watching this doesn't have access to transactional funding or capital, reach out to me. I'll plug you in for this process as you're doing your deals. But that's literally those things right there is what allows you to take these deals and sell it to the retail market. If you get a cash buyer from the MLS, you can double close, pass through fund just like you would with an off market guy. Or
so
you can
correct me if I'm wrong here. So with this business model, you guys are not only able to sell to cash buyers, I can sell to a retail buyer too.
Yeah, because here's the cool thing, right? The MLS, this is why it's so important to set front end expectations, because the MLS syndicates with 480 plus other websites outside of the multiple listing service that the general public has access to. When you understand that, that is your ability to get your deal or your property in front of national and international retail and investor buyers. Mm-hmm. That, I'll give you an example. I had a deal in Doraville. The neighbor called me at 9:30 at night when I just got it listed, bought it $10K over asking because he wanted his daughter to live there and had cash stacked up. That is not on anybody's list. I don't care who you are. That's not on anybody's list. Right. And so understanding that is super important. And then another super critical thing too is these guys that are buying from you, they have to deal with holding costs if they go through a private money lender, right? You're in a position now where you don't have holding costs because during your due diligence, the seller is still dealing with anything with the property. And so if you have a conventional end buyer, you can do an elongated double close, which is instead of same day, you do it 3 to 7 days before. That way it's before the CD comes out so the lender doesn't trip, which I've seen people do same day, but I prefer 3 to 7 days out, which is still kind of risky. There's some risk there, and we've kind of dealt with that with one of our properties. They don't
give like pushback by saying, hey, we got to wait till the deed gets recorded?
No, because you let them know, like, hey, even if we're closing at different attorneys, hey, our investment firm has this under contract. We're going to be using our own funding to acquire this before we go ahead and sell it to your seller. If we're at the same attorney, she handles it. If we're at a different attorney, we put the attorneys in contact with each other and let them know, hey, as soon as this is closed, she'll get everything over to you. This is, for us, it's Nancy, right?
Upfront expectations. Just like
exactly, right? Yeah. We're a professional investment firm where we have a brokerage. I'm a broker, and this is how we do business, right? And so this is what is need to get done, and this is how we're going about doing it. Your client's going to get, and if buyers or buyers agents call off the MLS, who's triple offer property buyers? We're an investment firm that's working with the owner of record to get this deal closed.
I think that upfront expectations, if you boil it down, it really means is transparency, right? It's being able to showcase what a lot of people have been doing behind closed doors in different sectors, but not investors, because it wasn't built. Yeah. There was no capability for them to be able to do it, right? And more importantly, there was no educational base, right? One of the things that we do at Talk Brokerage is not only are we helping you facilitate the deal, but we're educating you. Right. Yeah. Because we want you to go from doing 1 or 2 deals to now doing, like some of our guys are doing, 20, 30 deals a month. And most people are like, oh, the market is tight right now. No, the market is tight if you don't have the right tools.
That's what I believe. Everybody's buying. It doesn't matter what market you're in. There are transactions that are going to happen every single day. The ones that believe the sky is falling are the ones that are going to pussy out. The ones that are going to double down and freaking put their feet in the ground and just lock in. It doesn't matter what comes their way. They're going to figure it out because it's that mindset, right? It's back to that mindset. And if you have an FHA buyer with the seasoning period, you novate. So that's your traditional financing and that's your cash buyer. That's the two people that could come off the MLS. And if there's a seasoning period, your novation allows you to go on the seller side of the HUD as a payoff. So no lender in the history of Earth could say anything. Even if we had $1 million deal where we didn't net $1 million. We netted an owner almost $1 million. We novated that instead of double close, because if we double closed, even 0.5% on $1 million is still a pretty good chunk out of our spread. Oh, yeah. So because we novated, we didn't have to get transactional funding. We were able to literally grab that equity. Our investment firm grabbed that equity, and our brokerage facilitated the distribution to bring the buyer. And we're able to get this guy $945,121.23. the exact amount on the contract because he didn't have any loans, he didn't have any liens, he didn't have county prorated taxes. He was so happy he gave us an extra $10,000.
Wow.
And the contract governs everything still, right? So you're hearing these terms, your listeners are hearing these terms, novate and things like that, right? And so, depending on the state, different states are going to have different requirements contractually as to how you're able to list that property on the MLS through the brokerage. So, we'll have those different requirements outlined on our website as, hey, look, this is what you need to have. So in some states like Georgia, you just need to make sure that you have a clear clause stating that, you have the right as the contract holder to market this property on the multiple listing service and explain that to your client,
and
right?
Any capacity in there too because of the syndication sites. That's what I mean. We've talked about it. Yeah.
And explain that to your client. Don't try to hide it from them.
Right.
Like, look, we use the MLS as a disposition strategy in our business, right? We want to make sure you get the price that's on the contract, right? That's what you want. So we're going to use this as a disposition strategy to help you get that price, right? Just tell them what you're doing, right? And so that is in Georgia. That's the requirement, right? Now, like I said, if you're selling to a FHA buyer, they're coming with a more conventional loan. And some states are going to require you to have, power of attorney. That's where the novation part comes in. So what power of attorney does is it gives you it's a limited power of attorney, which means it gives you the authority to sign on their behalf when it comes to only this property that you have under contract. So you can sign the listing agreement on their behalf, things like that. That's the novation. That's really where novation comes in. That's kind of the crust of that term, is using power of attorney to act on behalf of the seller in a limited capacity, only dealing with the property. Some states require that. So, we'll have that outlined and we'll walk you through that process. But, there's no excuse for you not to be able to use the MLS because we have all these things in place to give you the access.
And one thing that's big too, right? Like back to the POA, in Georgia, you can get a deal done without it. But when you have all the in-between stuff, if you do novate, it just allows for more of an ease to be able to get that done. And so there's our mindset is not that we can't do it. It's how do we do it in a way that is compliant, that is legal, that is ethical, that is moral, that's adding value to the community.
You know what I love about this is wholesalers, there's not a whole lot of transparency with what's actually happening with the deal. Mm-hmm. And so you have to do a lot of disguising, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Even though you have good intentions, people get cold feet and get scared to tell the homeowner what's actually about to happen.
Yeah.
With this, you guys are setting the expectations right up front, letting the homeowner know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this whole disposition model so much. Is I don't have to worry about the homeowner finding out what the hell is going to happen.
Yeah, we're going to tell you.
And here's
we're serving, right? That's the whole model, right? It's to serve, and you can't serve. It's like just being at a restaurant. Like you can't serve somebody they don't know what the hell's on the menu. It's like how do you even know what restaurant you walked in? Right. And you want to let them know here's everything that's going to happen. And at the end of this, like you said, we're going to not only give you your results, we're going to over deliver. Right. The reason why it's called Top Broker is because it's the best, right? It's who you want to seek out to because you know that they can deliver what they said they were going to deliver. And that's what's so shocking. In wholesalers, the reason why they have an issue with that is it's actually a lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. They don't know if they can deliver what they said they deliver. They was just watching the YouTube video and that's what the guy said. So they said that. But they don't really know if they can do that or not. Right. And so they keep it on the wraps oh yeah, I'm actually not going to buy this one. No. Be upfront, be transparent, right? Make sure you're educating and you're executing, and that gives you more of a leeway. When you do that, your seller is gonna root for you.
Yeah,
go do it.
And once they see oh wow, he's using all his resources, it makes the renegotiation conversation easier. And from a sales pitch and the sales process standpoint, our LMs will set appointments for our property buying specialist. Our property buying specialist will go through the call just like any other call. Try to get it at the lowest possible price that he can that makes sense for the seller, that the seller can agree to. After that conversation and number is agreed to, They then hop into expectations of what's to come next. Okay, awesome. We agreed to a number. We're going to have a 15, at least for preferably for our investment firm, 15 business day inspection period. The more you get, the better. But at least a 15 business day inspection period. During that inspection period, we're going to have contractors, private money, my retail agents, and my retail investors accompanied by agents, and just different parties that we are so not even associated, but just have access to coming out to the property. So access is going to need to be an expectation. My transactions head will coordinate that with you, and we'll work around your schedule to make sure it works for everybody. Okay. The second part is, Mr. Seller, we have a corporate internal marketing process that allows us to look at the deal from different perspectives, all in an effort to get you to your number. So you will see your property marketed. However, it's not a listing for you. It's not anything where you have to pay anything extra. There's nothing that comes with it. There's nothing hidden, right? The number you see with us is the number that you get minus any, of course, existing loans that you have, liens, and prorated county taxes. Is that, you understand our process? Yeah, I understand the process. Absolutely. Awesome. Send you out the agreement, get it signed. Oh, I don't like your process. I'm not going to go with your process. Well, hey, we can present you with a no access offer, but instead of being at 150, we're going to need to be at 90. And does that, I mean, I'm trying to put as much money in your pocket as possible, right? And so we could close in 7 to 10 days. Why do you need to be so much lower? Because we're a full-fledged professional investment firm with multiple exit strategies in addition to liquidity. So because of that, if you give us the ability to look at it from different perspectives, and I mean, shoot, if we have a buyer lined up, as soon as we buy it and we can cut down our holding costs, we're the type of organization that turns around and puts that money back in your pocket.
That's big, bro.
Win.
That's a good sales pitch right there. Because my question was going to be is like, how much pushback do you guys get when pitching this? Because in my head, it's like, I'm looking at it from the aspect, even though I know the benefits of it, but I also know sellers.
Yeah, we don't get any. We don't get any. And the reason we don't get any is because you tell them up front. Yeah. You tell them up front.
Do they ever like approach you guys and be like, well, I can just go list it with my
do it.
cousin
do it.
Yeah,
you want to deal with that?
You say, look, hey, look, you know what?
Do that shit.
Great. You just let them know, like, look, this is what we do, right? And it's also, we know about this in the business, how much rapport do you have with that seller? Have you built rapport where they trust you? Because the only reason they asking you that is because they don't trust you.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you going to list? If they trust that you're going to get that, they don't care if you list it. They don't care if you have signs at midnight in front of the yard. You standing out there. They don't care, right? Yeah. What they want is that they want to feel like you can get the deal closed.
Results.
And if your people who are talking to them have built that level of rapport with them, they don't care. They like, look, I'm confident with you. I know you can get it done. You've been transparent with me. Let's go.
Would you rather deal with Timmy that sells 2 houses a year, or would you rather deal with the investment firm that has been able to buy and sell over 100 plus properties this year?
Yeah.
And more than that too, it's like, hey, if you want to list with Timmy, the number you see isn't going to be the number you get. Justin, it's not. You're going to have to pay Timmy. You're going to have to pay the concessions. And in this market, that's going to be potentially 8-9% off the top of the number you sell at.
And that's going to be 6 months from now.
Yeah, exactly. You're signing a 6-month listing agreement. With us, you're going to know at the latest, the last day of the inspection period, if we have a closing date, if we're terminating, or if in order to get to a closing date, we need a reduction. Which, if you don't want to reduce, it's your choice at that point. Right? If we can't move forward at this number and we come to you at the end of the inspection and say, hey, we actually need to be here to get the deal done, it's your choice. And to be fully transparent, right? I told you we have liquidity. So we're looking at buying this. We're potentially looking at this from a couple other angles too. And wholesale is definitely an exit strategy for us. But no other person that's actually wholesaling your property is going to tell you that. And that's not to say that we are. But I'm not going to lie to you and say that's something that we don't do. Because we would do that as long as you get to your number within these days on contract.
Bro, why is nobody talking about this?
Because
go ahead.
We're about to be the ones.
Nobody's talking about it, I think, because, and this is going to be real tough and unfortunate to say, but at the end of the day, a lot of the professionals that are out there are only about self.
Bro, that I'm almost getting pissed off listening to this. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna start implementing.
Send me the podcast. I'm gonna build a whole because I have it all in my head, but I got to get better at the systems and processes behind it. So even that spiel that I gave that came from the heart, I'm gonna go back and rewatch this because a lot of this stuff
you
is
said
just
it beautifully,
instinct.
man.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here thinking at the same time, I'm like, we got all these fucking gurus out here that teach all this bullshit, and you guys got a fucking crazy
listen, so
model, dude. Like
the gurus are doing what they're supposed to do, right? They teach marketing, and their whole sales practice is just like, you brought my course, good job, and they move on to the next, right?
yeah.
So for them, their job is just that. It's not about like truly educating and making people better, because then if you become better, then you don't need to come back to me.
Right.
But if I sell you a course, then you're going to keep coming back every time I do another sell, right? The other side of it too is like, we've dealt with so many sellers that absolutely hate agents.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because they don't like the process. They don't like how the agent made them feel. And the expectations that they said they was going to have, they were lied to.
Yep.
And so that's why a lot of times investors are making money from certain deals because agents fucked up so bad. Like homeowners are like, I don't want to sell to an agent. I'm going to pay them 8% and they're not going to do nothing. I could do that on my own. That's what they feel. Top Brokerage separates that and allows them to get all the benefit that they should be getting from a brokerage without having to deal with any of the hassle part.
Yeah.
And know exactly what's going on. They're on the same page of exactly what's going on throughout the whole entire process. And when it's all said and done, it's like this breath of fresh air because they didn't know it could happen like that.
Yeah. And that's like, to speak on Eddie's point too, it's like we're in a position where it's like the pitch I gave you is what my investment firm does to then lock up the agreement, and then we sign a listing agreement with our brokerage. Right. And so for the seller, between the seller and the investment firm's goal is, how do I get you to this number within this amount of days on contract? The brokerage is, how do I facilitate distribution so I get you in front of everybody?
Bro, this is such. I'm so glad we're having this conversation because it needs to be put out there. Bro.
And we have 24/7 call transferring. We have a 24/7 service, so you're getting better communication than any agent out there. We have our admin and our operations team. Shout out to Kyle. Shout out to our development team with Leighton. They do an amazing job of we're bottom upping and top downing the approach, because our entire brokerage will operate out of a portal.
So you guys are full service. I mean,
well, not full service.
We don't do retail listings.
Anything on the traditional side.
That's
right?
not our focus.
So
we're focused.
But just
would
imagine.
you guys list anything on the traditional side?
No.
You guys just cater to investors.
Only to investors, because that's the niche, right?
Gotcha.
You gotta stay in your lane, right?
Yeah.
And just imagine this: if I'm selling my home with an agent, I got to worry about showings and leaving my house,
that's a good
things
point.
of that nature. Now, guess what? Look, we may have one time where we bring some people by to see the house. That's it. We're not gonna call you at 2:00. Hey, can we get there at 3? Then tomorrow, hey, 4:00. Can you clear out by 5? We're not doing that, right? So now you're skipping that traditional headache that comes with, a lot of people are like, oh, the realtor gave me 45-minute notice that they're going, you're skipping that headache that traditionally comes with
white glove service.
Well, and that's as we grow, right? We might as we grow, but our focus is building this nationwide, and then potentially from that point horizontally incorporating some certain things that don't take away our focus as an ownership group and as an operations group as being an investor first and foremost. And so even one thing we do, I mean, hey, instead of, to Ivan's point, an agent calling you at weird times, my transactions head is going to go ahead and let you know 2 to 3 times throughout the week. Those gaps is where our representatives are going to be directed to come out in.
Man, y'all gave a lot of game on this, bro. So, fortunately, we got to move on from this conversation right here. But you guys are going to have to give me an affiliate link because we're having to drop it underneath this video.
We got you.
So that way, anyone that wants information or wants to get involved, wants to be a subscriber, they can click the link below in this video.
We're big on helping people win with us. We actually have an affiliate program where we have 4 options, our 3 subscription options and a 1 flat fee option, right? If you bring somebody to us that came from you, because it's not a commission, we are legally okay with sharing the subscription amount with you or that flat fee amount. So you would get 5% of the $625 for the flat fee. But if it's a subscription they sign up for, you make 5% monthly cash flow commission because that person wouldn't have been here without you.
Bro.
So we're going to send that link to Justin. So Keys to Currency, if you sign up underneath that link, guess what? Justin's going to benefit just as much as you getting access to the MLS. Now, we have something going on right now that's special, right? It's not going to last long. Our regular normal price package for our subscription is $1,000, $2,000, and $3,000. That's our bronze, our silver, and gold, right? So what we're doing right now, because we want people to be able to take advantage of the service. Yeah. If you sign up before the end of March, I believe it is, or somewhere around that time, right? You'll get the bronze and the silver package for $500 off. So that means you'll pay $500 if you sign up for the bronze. You'll pay $1,000 if you sign up for the silver for the next $1,500. Sorry, if you sign up for the silver for the next 12 months. So that'll lock you into that price for 12 months.
However, if you don't want to continue using our service, we're not locking you into a contract.
Right, there's no month contract. To month. There's no contract.
Because we're so confident in what the fuck we do and that you're going to love it. There's no reason that, $500 over 12 months, $6,000. One deal is potentially a quarter of that. A lot less than that, right?
And what's the gold discount?
There is no gold discount because if you're on a gold, if you are at the point where you're doing gold, $3,000 for how much you're going to save is nothing.
Dropping the bucket.
Yeah, because
exactly. That's the thing. So the 2 lower tiers are more so of like you trying to fill your way out, right? Like, okay, let me see if this can really work.
Yeah.
By the time you start recognizing the value that this actually brings you and how you're able to like continue to put as many deals as you want, it doesn't make sense for you not to be on the top tier. You end up spending more money.
Yep.
Well, and imagine from an inventory standpoint, right? Just like Amazon, you can create an Amazon seller account. You pay $50 a month and you pay a percentage of your cost of goods sold. We are that model, but just for real estate. It's the access to distribution, right?
Bro, I hope you guys are paying attention. I hope you guys got a lot of game. If you're a wholesaler, real estate investor, and you're struggling right now to find cash buyers, solid cash buyers, they have the answer for you guys. They just gave a whole description on how they can solve your problem. You guys would be absolute fools not to utilize them. They just gave us a whole masterclass on why Top Brokerage is going to be one of the premier disposition companies in the entire nation very soon. So guys, I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this video. We're going to have an affiliate link below. So if you guys need more information, before I let you guys go, how can they get a hold of you guys?
You can reach me again, Sneaker RE Investor, okay, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Go check me out. Topbrokerage.org is our website. Go on there, get all the information that you need. Click that affiliate link, okay, hey, get involved so we can help you change your business.
Absolutely. Nico the Broker, Niko the Broker. On Instagram, shoot me a DM. That's the best way to get in contact with me. And then, that's the Instagram or not MySpace anymore, but
no MySpace. Yeah.
That's all right. And you can get a hold of me at ThisDadFlips on IG. That's THIS Dad Flips. And guys, girls, everything and all in between. Listen, we do this because we all understood where we were. We understand what type of market that we're in and where we're going to be going in the next 10, 20 years. And we understood one thing was missing, and that was what Top Brokerage is offering to the marketplace for investors, for sellers, for people who are looking to buy properties that was not going to get the opportunity. And I got to give shout out to my guy, Justin.
Much
what
love.
He's doing with Keys to Currency. It's amazing. This is actually our first time talking about this collectively anywhere on any platform. And we chose to come do it here first because we believe so much in his vision and his mission, what he's looking to do, literally give you guys the keys to currency.
That's
so
right. Subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe,
like,
share,
follow,
all that
good stuff. Do
you
it.
Know what I'm saying?
Hit all them buttons.
Because look, guys like him don't come often.
That's right.
And when they do, you gotta soak up as much game as they give you, so that you can make sure that you are leaving generational wealth for your family. And that's what it's about. So again, thank you, my
Thank
brother.
you, my guy.
Man,
Thank
listen,
you, my guy. We appreciate it.
This was fun, bro. We got to do a part 2 to this because you guys give a lot of game. I feel like there's so much more information to put out there about this. But guys, again, massive value. Please like, subscribe, comment your favorite part. Until then, I will see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.